Alright, today in this video we're going to look at micro switches. I'm going to back it up a little bit and get a little bit more basic. Last week we kind of covered some serious repairs or a little bit more heavy repairs. So this is going to be a micro switch that you find in typical arcade buttons. There's a few different styles. I'll show you those. They all basically function the same way. I'm going to show you how to test one that's in the game and see if it's actually working itself. So stick around. Okay, so I have this little guy highlighted here, but I also did a couple little graphics to make it a little easier for you to see. So this bottom one here is labeled common on the microswitch itself, and should be a little graphic sliding in here. Common equals your ground. So your ground wire, which is 9 times out of 10 going to be a black wire, is going to go to this lead here that sticks off from the bottom, or sometimes the case may be at the top, so it'll be flipped around this way. The most important thing is this little clicker right here. This is what actuates your thing. Now your next one is going to be normally open, and that is this wire here, and this could be any color. It just depends on the game and you know what the button is going to do, probably, and each JAMA harness. And then the next one is normally closed. I'm going to describe all these in just a second. Let's see, some other different micro switches. This one's basically the same thing. You'll see a lot of different arms like this coming off. This one's kind of the same, but it had a different shape, just depending on the game and what the switch needs to do. This is a like a coin meter switch. It would probably be like this. The coin would come through and actuate it there. I had another little one for pinball that I was going to show you. Sometimes they're little itty bitty guys, but they're still micro switches. So let's talk about normally open and normally closed. So your normally open is a switch where this button is up normally. Your normally closed is going to be in a situation where this is pushed down normally. So your normal arcade button, let's see, I might need to back this out. Okay, normal arcade button. I'm going to stop this and get some flash going. Alright, it's a little better. Okay, so I'll pull this out a little bit. To put it in there, it's got a little tab here and a little tab at the top. And you just line it up here. So your little button is going to be here, and it's going to be at the bottom. Your typical arcade button is going to be a normally open button. And when you hit, if you can see the little yellow switch there, and when you hit the button to do something, that's where you get the click. So you close it to complete the circuit. And then that's going to cause your jump or your run or your fight or whatever the case may be. So most of the time you're going to deal with the tab here, which is the normally open, or NO as it's marked on the micro switch. Let me see it a little better. The NO, this bottom tab. So a lot of times you won't even see this normally closed tab on micro switches. Sometimes they're broken off. Sometimes they didn't even come with one. And the same goes and vice versa. In a situation where you have a normally closed micro switch, it may not have this one that's nearest to the ground. But typically the ones you're going to run into for arcade games are just going to be these closest 2 pins next to each other. And that's going to be for your standard button like this. Now, the reason I had this idea of doing this video is I was working on a Hoop Fever game, and the ball gate, I'm just going to use these two for example. It has 2 micro switches. Let's see. This one may not be the best. Okay, so it has two micro switches that are kind of like this. One goes this way and hits this. That means it knows it's open all the way. And then when it's time, actually this way, when it's time, the motor starts to move, releases this one, and the little arm will go over here and hit that one, and it knows to stop. So that's how it knows when and where to stop its open and close. Now, I was having issues because it was not closing at all. Or when I finally did get a new micro switch in there, it wouldn't close all the way. It would just start to close. So I determined that the micro switch was bad, and so I'm going to set that up and show you how to test it. And it's pretty simple. Like I said, this is just a basic repair video real quick, and so I'm going to try not to talk too much. So let me get right back. Okay, so I have my micro switch set up here in a little helping hands tool. This is the exact reason why I decided I had to get one of these, because I could not hold that thing and test it at the same time. So I have my meter here. We're going to put it on diode test to check for continuity. Now I just put these little alligator clip test leads on my my normal leads. Make it just a little bit easier to test this. Actually, make sure I'm not zoomed in. Okay. So the black, which is the common or the ground, is always going to be this one that's separated from the other two. So we will clip, if I can see it, we will clip the black lead on there. And some alligator clips are slick. Okay, and first we're going to test the normally open, which is, like I said, the typical use for arcade games and control panel buttons and whatnot. Ones where it's normally open are like in your ticket trays, where if you're full of tickets, it's closed, and when it runs out of tickets, it becomes open, and then a little light goes off, and you know you need to fill tickets. Is just one example of. Let's see if we can get this. Just one example of that style of normally closed. Okay, so a 1 is what it should be, which means that there's no connection there. So it is normally open. Just like this switch, the button is all the way up. It's normally open. So what we're going to do is just, let me see if I focus in here. What we're going to do is just actuate the micro switch over there and like this, and it should go to 0, which means there is continuity. So I want to see if I can get both of these in the shot. That ain't open. Oh man, that's really stuck to the table there. Ugh. Okay, that's better. So let me move this a little closer. Maybe turn it. Okay, so here's the button, and here's this. So as soon as we push the button in, it should go to 0, if it works. Okay, that's pretty close. All right, there it goes. So that shows us that part of the switch is working. Now, if it stays at 1 or it doesn't go all the way to 0, if it's like 0.01 or 0.02, that's probably fine. But if it doesn't go down that low or it stays at 1, that part of the switch is bad. Now let's test the normally closed. Now, whenever I put this on there, it should immediately go to 0, because it would be as if the button was pressed down. Man, those things are almost useless on there. I'm not worried about that. Okay, so it did go to 0, and now when I push the button this time, it should go to a 1. Okay, so we close the circuit. So that's how you test one of those. It's pretty simple. Diode test. You want to check the proper places, proper leads on the micro switch for normally open or normally closed. Go ahead and check both. It doesn't matter what purpose it is in the game. You probably want to know if it's working either way. And then if it's not working, you just change it out, and it's pretty simple. I'll show you again on this real fast. Make sure it's in focus. So it's got one tab on this side, and well, both tabs are on that side, and then it's got little nubs that hold it in. But how I go at it is this high side, I pull out first, you pull up, get it off there to put one on. You always make sure that the ground is going to be up and the button is down, because when you push this button, it has to hit that to work. But yeah, I just set this little thing in the hole there, spin it around, and lock it in with this one. Do that one more time, so I don't think it goes on free. Okay, so let me see if I can move some of this stuff out of the way. Maybe it'll focus a little better. Okay, so you got the nub there and the nub there, the two holes here. The short side, make sure your button is pointed down, and then you kind of just pull this one out until you can lock it in over there, and it's in there good. We usually won't pop out. But that should get you covered. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, just let me know in the comments. So these two right here are going to be ground and 5 volts. So what do we get here? Did I not turn the game on? I didn't turn the game on. I guess that would help.
Here it is. A nice little trade. The person I traded got what they wanted. I got what I wanted. And a pretty good deal on it too. Super hang on.
That comes later.
Yeah.
Okay. It's on fire.
What happened? Whoa.
Lots of smoke.
Well, that's bad.
Yep. Well, thanks for watching.